Hello, welcome back to Dr. J Tech. My name is Jeffrey. Quantum tech concept stocks have been skyrocketing these past few weeks. Everyone's been talking about when quantum computers will actually become a reality. At the same time, a lot of scientists are saying that once quantum computing becomes real, blockchain and cryptocurrencies could collapse. What is a quantum computer? How exactly do quantum computers crack the algorithms behind cryptocurrencies, and how can scientists solve this problem? Today, we're going to talk to you about this topic. So today's topic is understanding how quantum computers and blockchain can coexist. Is blockchain really nothing compared to quantum computing? Could Bitcoin actually crash because of it? First, let's talk about how Bitcoin transactions are identified and verified, and basically what we call verifiable anonymity. Next, let's talk about the Citizen Digital Certificate. It's basically a form of verifiable real name identification. Next, let's talk about mining. Its main purpose is to make sure transaction records can't be tampered with. Next, let's get into the basics of quantum technology, quantum superposition and quantum entanglement. So, what exactly makes quantum computers so powerful? And then we'll introduce you to solve the problem of quantum computers breaking cryptography in quantum computers is known as post-quantum cryptography, PQC, and we'll introduce you to the question of is blockchain truly insignificant in the face of quantum computing? Will Bitcoin crash? First off, not long ago, quantum-related stocks surged worldwide, and the crypto scene's been full of hype ever since. It started when Huawei's founder talked about information security, saying that blockchain might seem amazing now, but it's nothing once quantum computing comes into play. There was even a warning from the founder of Solana during a conference. He said Bitcoin could soon be cracked, and if it doesn't upgrade to be quantum resistant before 2030, it might collapse. What exactly is a quantum computer? How can quantum computing break the blockchain, and will the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, crash? First, we'll introduce you to Bitcoin's transaction verification or verifiable anonymity. Bitcoin users install a mobile app called Bitcoin Wallet, which generates a private password known as a private key and a public password known as a public key. Users must keep their private key secret and publish the public key online, so miners own the user's public key. So Alice has to pay Bob $10 for an apple, and Alice has to install an app on her phone. It's called a Bitcoin wallet. Bitcoin wallet generates a public password. Putting a circle means the public key, and putting an X means the private key, and Alice has to keep her private key secret and secure, and publish the public key on the internet, so the miners have Alice's public key. When Alice's Bitcoin wallet sends 10 Bitcoins to Bob, the transaction is encrypted with Alice's private key and then sent to the miners who use Alice's public key to decrypt it. If it can be decrypted, it means that Alice's private key was used to encrypt the transaction, and Alice is the only person in the world who has her own private key. This way, the transaction can be verified as real. So let's say Alice pays Bob 10 Bitcoins to buy an apple. Then her Bitcoin wallet will use Alice's private key to encrypt the message, and it gets sent to miner A's node. And the miner will use Alice's public key to decrypt the message to complete the verification. This process is called digital signature if it can be decrypted. It means that the message was really sent by Alice, and Alice can't deny it, because only Alice's public key can decrypt the message encrypted by Alice's private key. In fact, the miners only used Alice's public key to verify that the transaction was real, but they didn't know that the owner of the public key was Alice. That's because Alice's wallet didn't authenticate when it generated the private and public keys. That means there's no connection between the key and the user, so it's verifiably anonymous, and anonymity protects the user's privacy. And that's exactly why cryptocurrencies can be used for money laundering. In this example, Alice's private key is just like the private seal you use at the bank when you withdraw cash or make a transfer. Therefore, the private key must be kept secret and must not be leaked, so if a hacker steals Alice's private key, can pretend to be Alice and encrypt the message with the private key, then send it to the miners to use Alice's public key to decrypt the message and complete the verification. At that point, the Bitcoin gets stolen. Next, let's talk about the Citizen Digital Certificate. It's a type of verifiable real name identification system. To turn public key authentication into a real name system is actually very simple. You only need a credible organization to verify your identity. For example, when we apply for a citizen digital certificate, we go to a household office to verify our identity, and inside the citizen digital certificate, there's actually a pair of keys, a private key and a public key. The record of which person this key pair belongs to is stored in the computers at the household registration office. Therefore, if Alice goes to the household office to apply for a citizen digital certificate, the household office will verify Alice's identity and give Alice a citizen digital certificate which records Alice's private and public keys. At the same time, the owner of this set of passwords, Alice, is recorded on the server of the account office, and when Alice wants to open an online banking account, Alice sits in front of the computer and encrypts the message with the private key using her citizen digital certificate and sends it to the internet bank. And the host of the internet bank decrypts the message with Alice's public key. If it can be decrypted, it means the message is encrypted with Alice's private key. Only Alice has her own private key, so the internet bank will check the identity of the server at the household affairs office. So the internet bank can verify that the person sitting in front of the computer is Alice. This is the verifiable real name system. When Alice wants to open an account with the internet bank, she uses her home computer to connect to the internet bank and encrypts her messages with her private key, then sends them to the internet banks. The internet bank uses Alice's public key to decrypt the message and complete the authentication. At the same time, the user's identity can be confirmed by connecting to the account office, meaning that there is a connection between the key and the user. So it's a verifiable real name system. Remember that not only internet banks use this method to verify the user's identity. All governmental websites can use citizen digital certificate or business certificates to verify the identity of users or enterprises on the internet. Therefore, public key cryptography is a very important and commonly used technique. Right now, it's mostly done using elliptic curve cryptography, ECC. Basically, it relies on the fact that solving the elliptic curve discrete logarithm is really hard. Next, let's talk about the purpose of mining is to ensure that transaction records cannot be tampered with. Blockchain uses two technologies, block and chain, to ensure that transaction records cannot be tampered with. That's why it's called a blockchain. And these two technologies require a so-called mining algorithm using a hash algorithm. Many people think it's some kind of great innovation, but it's really just a size comparison mathematical operation called a conditional hash. Figuring out the right sized hash is so simple that even a kid could do it. That's why I call it an old school trick, and it's something to keep in mind. The purpose of mining is to ensure that transaction records can't be tampered with, not to distribute miners' bonuses. The miners use computers to perform mining algorithms over and over again to ensure that transaction records cannot be tampered with. This method is called proof of work, POW. Mining basically means repeating this number comparison math over and over again, and the more computers you have, the better it works. The result is that there are many mines all over the world with tens of thousands of computers running at full speed, wasting a lot of power. And the main purpose is to make sure that transaction records can't be tampered with. Although that blockchain mining wastes a lot of power, it's really truly decentralized. So the people who do the mining are called miners. The miner's computer has to keep performing mining operations, so it has to waste a lot of power in order to reward the miner. As long as the operation conditions are met, the miner can create a block of Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin passbook, to record the user's transactions. In addition to recording other people's Bitcoin transactions, it can even create new coins out of thin air, basically recording a miner's reward for itself. In addition, the miner will also receive a fee from the user for the Bitcoin transaction. Next, we'll talk about the basics of quantum technology, which is quantum superposition and quantum entanglement. If a physical quantity has a smallest indivisible unit, then that quantity is considered discrete, not continuous, that is quantized, and that fundamental unit is called a quantum. Remember this, a quantum is not a particle itself, but a state or property of a particle. In theory, all 61 fundamental particles can be used to generate qubits, but most elementary particles are difficult to control. So right now, the most common particles used to generate qubits are the spin of electrons and the polarization of photons. Make sure to keep that in mind. An electron itself isn't a quantum, its spin is. A photon isn't a quantum either, its polarization is. So a quantum is not a particle itself but a state or property of a particle. So when it comes to quantum technology, it must have two states. The first property is called quantum superposition, which means a particle's state or property can exist in multiple possibilities at once, according to the linear nature of Schrödinger's equation. A quantum system's superposition can be a linear combination of several different eigenstates and their corresponding eigenvalues. That is, we often hear of a cat that is alive and dead, which, when applied to quantum computation, means that the quantum bits are in the 0 and 1 state. The second property is called quantum entanglement, which refers to the phenomenon of particle-to-particle correlation, where two or more particles are correlated with each other. Even if the particles are far apart, they still affect each other. A change in the state of one particle affects the state of the other. This is what Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. What we call a quantum computer is a science that utilizes quantum superposition of particles and quantum entanglement as the basics for data processing. Many people mistakenly believe that quantum computers are much faster than traditional computers and will replace all traditional computers in the future. In fact, quantum computers are not fast computers, they are fast computers for specific operations. If the problem you're solving isn't suitable, you won't be able to use a quantum computer any faster. Therefore, quantum computers can only supplement, not completely replace, traditional computers. This means that quantum computers are only fast for specific calculations, but for general calculations such as communicating on our smartphones or playing movies, this type of digital computing is not suitable for quantum computers, so you can just use a traditional computer. Next, we'll talk about what's so great about quantum computers. Quantum computers use quantum superposition and quantum entanglement to perform calculations, which must be accompanied by appropriate quantum algorithms. There are only a few quantum algorithms that have been proposed so far, and one of the most famous ones is the first algorithm by. It's called the Shor algorithm, which can break the elliptic curve discrete logarithm. As we mentioned earlier, users of cryptocurrencies must keep their private key secret and then publish the public key online. This method relies on the fact that solving the elliptic curve discrete logarithm is extremely hard for classical computers, so you can't derive Alice's private key from her public key. Remember, the public key is public, so anyone can get Alice's public key. But because traditional computers can't calculate Alice's private key from her public key, this ensures that Alice's private key will not be leaked. But if a quantum computer runs Shor's algorithm, it could derive a user's private key from their public key in no time, which means that because Alice's public key is public, anyone can have it. Because anyone can have it, as long as the quantum computer runs the Shor's algorithm, it can calculate Alice's private key. Therefore, Alice's private key can be decrypted and leaked out. At that point, the whole public key system we talked about earlier completely breaks down. The second algorithm is Grover's algorithm. It can speed up searches through an unstructured. As I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin uses mining algorithms to ensure that transaction records can't be tampered with, which is known as proof of work. This method takes advantage of how time-consuming it is for classical computers to search through random, unstructured databases and combine it with those number comparison calculations. So there's no way to tamper with Bitcoin's transaction logs to keep it safe. But if a quantum computer runs Grover's algorithm, we can calculate a hash value that matches the size in a very short period of time, so it's very easy to tamper with Bitcoin's transaction records. In other words, a traditional computer would have to try each path to solve the maze, whereas a quantum computer can explore all possible paths at once. So it could find the right hash value in a very short time. Then the Bitcoin ledger could be tampered with, and that's why so many scientists say that once quantum computers and quantum algorithms become fully mature, Bitcoin's public key verification system could be completely broken by Shor's algorithm, and Bitcoin's mining mechanism would be broken by Grover's algorithm. How do we solve this problem? Next, we'll go over how to stop quantum computers from breaking our cryptography, also known as post-quantum cryptography, PQC. There are several ways to build quantum computers: quantum anneal, superconductor, ion trap, quantum dot, diamond defeat, and topoconductor, etc. But in reality, making quantum computing work is way harder than it sounds in theory. Because the quantum state is extremely unstable, it's easily affected by thermal energy and electromagnetic radiation at room temperature. Therefore, more mature quantum computers must operate at extremely low temperatures below 273 degrees Celsius. Impurities in the surrounding environment can also seriously interfere with quantum computation and signal measurement. A common solution is to use more physical qubits to recover the correct answer through algorithmic error correction. That's how we get what's called a logical qubit for actual computation. And the number of qubits needed for error correction grows rapidly as the number of computational qubits increases. Therefore, it will take a long time for quantum computers to break through in terms of reliability, reproducibility, and durability. Since quantum computation threatens the public key verification mechanism, scientists have been preparing for it for a long time. One way is to use quantum key distribution, QKD, which is theoretically unbreakable and the most secure. But this kind of quantum communication technology is also immature, so it's not feasible for now. Another method is to use post-quantum cryptography, PQC, which is a change in the encryption algorithm currently in use. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, has been planning cryptographic algorithms that are resistant to attacks by quantum computers since 2016 and has organized an open competition. NIST selected several algorithms. For asymmetric encryption, Crystal's Kyber. For digital signatures, Crystal's dilithium, Falcon, Sphinx Plus, and Hamming quasi-cyclic HQC. Crystals stands for Cryptographic Suite for Algebraic Lattices, and the name Crystals Kyber actually comes from Kyber crystals, the energy source behind the lightsabers and the Death Star's laser in the sci-fi movie Star Wars. And the word crystals dilithium is derived from dilithium crystals. This is the substance used to control the warp drive in the sci-fi movie Star Trek. All of this is of course fictional, which just goes to show that the scientists who came up with these encryption algorithms are probably huge sci-fi fans too. Finally, we'll talk to you. Is it true that blockchain is nothing compared to quantum computing? The founder of Huawei says that blockchain is so great now, but it's nothing compared to quantum computing. What's the truth? Blockchain is innovative, but it's not great. And the most important feature of blockchain is that it's decentralized. It's this feature that makes Bitcoin's blockchain transactions so slow and consumes 10,000 times more power than traditional finance. And it's this feature. Miners and participants from all over the world can vote together to change all the rules, so all the rules can be changed. So they won't be worthless in the face of quantum computing, according to the scientists' assessment. Running Shor's algorithm on a quantum computer to break elliptic curve cryptography, ECC, probably won't be possible until around 2035 at the earliest. That's 10 years from now. And by that time, it won't just be cryptocurrencies getting cracked. Our citizen digital certificates and business certificates would be broken too. That means it's not just crypto that's affected. Every online transaction we rely on today would stop working, making this a truly serious issue. To fix this problem, we just need to replace the transaction verification algorithm, elliptic curve cryptography, ECC, with a quantum-resistant one such as Crystal's dilithium or the Hamming quasi-cyclic HQC algorithm. That would effectively solve the issue. However, since Bitcoin is decentralized, changing its transaction verification algorithm would require global coordination, syncing tens of thousands of miners, updating tens of millions of users, and migrating assets worth tens of billions of dollars. And it only takes one error to potentially split the blockchain ecosystem, so it's a huge time-consuming process, and it's not that simple. That's why the founder of Solana Coin said that if Bitcoin doesn't upgrade to be quantum-resistant before 2030, it could collapse. And the time to upgrade the decentralized Bitcoin algorithm from 2030 until it's finished will be almost 2035. Compared to that, it's much easier to upgrade centralized traditional finance, so do you still think decentralization is better? So will Bitcoin eventually crash? Next, let's talk about how running Grover's algorithm on a quantum computer to break proof of work (POW) actually has an even higher barrier. Whether it's tested on a quantum computer or simulated on a traditional computer, no scientist has yet proven it to be feasible. That's why it's so difficult to break the mining algorithm of the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's a long way off, and there is a solution. That means switching the algorithm from proof of work, POW, which requires mining, is slow, power-hungry, but highly secure, to proof of stake, POS, which is non-mining, fast, power-saving, and low security. Because proof of stake is an algorithm that concentrates the cryptocurrencies held by miners, it's not decentralized at all. So it's a pseudo-decentralized public chain. I came up with a term for this, pseudo-decentralized. But to be fair, it really does solve the problem of energy waste from mining. So most public chains have already switched to this algorithm, and if Bitcoin does the same in the future, then there won't be any decentralized public chains in the world. So will Bitcoin crash? The answer is no. Regardless of whether it's truly decentralized or pseudo-decentralized, as long as the majority of investors don't understand the complex terminology, Bitcoin can continue to be hyped. So Bitcoin won't crash because of quantum computers. And don't forget the old saying, if you think blockchain is innovation, you don't understand tech. Those who think that Bitcoin will fail don't understand human nature. From what we've discussed, it's clear that quantum computers need the right quantum algorithms to break the encryption used in cryptocurrencies. Among them, Shor's algorithm can break the public key verification system. But that'll probably still take at least another 10 years. And once it's broken, it's not just cryptocurrencies that are in trouble, it's all of our internet transactions. And the scientists' solution is to use post-quantum cryptography, which is a different cryptographic algorithm to solve the problem. Another one, Grover's algorithm, can break Bitcoin's mining computation. In other words, it's proof of work, POW system, which is not mature enough at the moment, so it's a long way off. And scientists already have a solution. It basically means using proof of stake to replace proof of work. So what will actually happen in the future is that even if quantum computers and quantum algorithms can be developed to a mature level, it's not going to have much of an impact on Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. And it's certainly not going to be the reason that Bitcoin collapses. That's all for today. If you have any questions about quantum computers, quantum algorithms, and cryptocurrencies, share your thoughts below. Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. Good night. Bye-bye.